This is Duke University.
Welcome to Visa Services. My name is Dylan Sugiyama, and I'll be sharing some important information for international students who will be coming to Duke and introducing you to our office. Visa Services is located in the Smith Warehouse, across from Duke's East Campus. There are regular buses that will take you from Duke's West Campus and drop you off just outside our door. I would urge all of you to take a look at our website. There's a wealth of information there for international students. I would pay particular attention to the information for incoming students. Now I'll introduce you to the documents that you'll need in order to register your immigration status with my office so that you can begin your studies at Duke. You're all familiar with passports. The thing to keep in mind is that you must ensure that your passport remains valid throughout your time at Duke. Each time you enter the U.S., your passport must be valid for at least 6 months into the future, or you could face difficulties entering the U.S. You will obtain a visa stamp from a U.S. embassy or consulate outside the U.S. You can think of this as your entry ticket into the United States. Without a valid, unexpired visa stamp in your passport, you will not be allowed to enter the U.S. If you have multiple visa stamps in your passport, for example a tourist visa and a student visa, please make sure that you present only the student visa when you arrive in the U.S. to begin your studies. If you're admitted in the wrong visa category, you may not be allowed to begin your studies at Duke. Also, please note that Canadians are not required to obtain visa stamps. The I-94 is the entry record that is created when you are admitted into the U.S. at an airport or land entry. Previously, you were issued a paper I-94, and occasionally paper I-94s are still issued, but for the most part, the record is now online. Once you arrive in the U.S., you should go to the website listed on the slide and pull up your I-94 record to ensure that the information is accurate. You will also need to print out a copy of your I-94 record because you will need that in order to complete your registration with my office. When you enter the U.S., the immigration inspector at the border should also put a stamp in your passport listing your date of entry and the class of admission. Please make sure that the correct class of admission is written, either F1 or J1 student. For those of you who will be on F1 student visas, your visa document is called an I-20. Many of you should have already received your I-20s from my office. The rest of you should be receiving yours soon. Please note that Section 5 of the I-20 lists both the start date and expected end date of your program at Duke. If either of those dates change, please sure to let my office know. Page 3 of the I-20 is where advisors at Visa Services sign the document to revalidate the document. You must obtain a signature from a Visa Services advisor at least once a year to ensure that you will be readmitted into the U.S. to resume your studies. Those of you coming to Duke on J1 student visas will have a different visa document called a DS 2019. Please check Section 3 to ensure that the start and end dates of your program are correct. If your graduation date will need to change, make sure that you notify us before the end date listed on the document so that we can issue you a new DS 2019 with a revised graduation date. The revalidation section for J1 students is in the lower left corner. You will need to obtain a new signature from a Visa Services advisor each year. If you will be traveling internationally during your time at Duke, you should review the travel information on our website before you leave. The most important thing is to ensure that your passport, visa stamp, and visa document, either I-20 or DS 2019, are valid, and that you are always readmitted back into the U.S. in the correct visa status. For domestic travel inside the U.S., you will need to carry original documents with you to show at the airport. F1 students are not eligible for Social Security numbers unless and until they have a job, either on or off campus. J1 students are eligible for Social Security numbers with or without a job. If you will be applying for either a Social Security number or a North Carolina driver's license, you will need to wait at least 3 days after you enter the U.S. and after you register with Visa Services. F1 students who will be gone from Duke for 5 months or more due to a leave of absence, study abroad, or conduct research must discuss these plans with the Visa Services advisor prior to leaving so that we can work out the visa implications. There are certain things you must do to maintain your immigration status while at Duke. You must be enrolled full-time each term. You must not work on or off campus until after you have confirmed your work authorization with Visa Services. And you must report any address changes within 10 days of the time you move. You will notify us of the move through your ACES account by updating your local residence hall address. I saved the most important slide for last. One of your first tasks after arriving in Durham will be to register with Visa Services. You must complete the registration process before classes begin. Duke now uses an online registration system for international students. The link is listed on the slide. In order to fulfill your registration obligations, you will need to watch the online registration presentation and fill out the 2 forms that are included in that presentation. You will then need to bring those 2 completed forms along with your original passport, I-94 printout, and your I-20 or DS-2019 to the Visa Services office. You can do this anytime during normal business hours, which are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. No appointment is necessary. For those of you who will have assistantships during your first semester, you should also complete your section of the online I-9 payroll form before you go to Visa Services. You can check with your academic department about the I-9, since they will need to initiate that. We at Visa Services look forward to welcoming you to Duke and assisting you with the visa and immigration matters throughout your time in Durham.